Who wants to do the intro?
Wait, what is the actual topic, by the way? Or what is the number?
35.
35.
Is there anything, I guess, in particular or major that happened with retro game prices that's like a solitary event, or are we just talking about
Mario 64 selling for 1.5 million?
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I think
Ocarina
of Time sold for like 800,000.
We need to give Tetra a 5-minute section to talk about the creases on that box.
Yes.
Oh god.
I'll go ahead and do the intro.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh wait, actually, people can't see me, so maybe I shouldn't do the intro.
Okay. I vote Drew or Tetra because they have video games behind them.
I think you vote Drew or Tetra because they're not you.
Yes.
I don't know. What's the... I don't think I've ever introduced a Minus Cast.
You'll just say, hey, welcome back to Minus Cast, episode 35. I literally could do it right here.
Hey, welcome back to Minus Cast, episode 35. It's time to do the Minus Cast with the Minus Bros.
With
Is that the way to do it?
Gamer, Nathaniel Bandy, Nintendrew, TetraBitGaming, and myself, Swankybox.
Hype.
Wait, was that the actual intro? Was that the actual intro?
Grant, fix this, make it work.
Make it...
Grant, make that intro good.
Yes, make it even better than it already was.
Someone has
10
to
out of
follow,
10.
someone has to
I did
follow
it.
up with the topic now.
We're talking about the ridiculous inflation of retro video game prices.
We sure are.
I guess not just video games. I guess we'll get into that later. Maybe we'll start with video games, maybe and segue to like Pokemon cards and used vehicles and
Lumber.
lumber. Yeah.
Lumber is actually...
Unironically, yeah.
Yeah.
So Mario 64, 1.5 million.
Ridiculous. So when does it
sounds just
sell?
about
It sold like last week, is that right?
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
Late
Yeah.
last week.
It was a...
Whoever bought it.
Whoever bought it.
It's silly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are the chances that whoever bought it because they thought they could then resell it later for more without knowing much about the sphere in general?
Maybe? I don't know. It seems odd to me that, like... I mean, I know that it was graded at a specific level where, like, it's supposedly, what did they say, like, one of about 200 known in that condition, but, like, I mean, I feel like it's not that hard to seek out a sealed copy of a first-party Nintendo game. Like,
Especially that one.
That's the thing too, is like it's interesting because it's almost like that person's opinion on the grading is worth 1.5 million.
yeah,
Not the actual product. So who is this guy with the golden opinion? And how can I get him to grade everything?
I don't know if it's the same company that did the grading for this one, but I've heard several times in the past where I don't know the exact company that does it, but they were kind of just like, every time they do something like this, I think they've been on like Pawn Stars and stuff, is like their whole thing is just to like generate essentially like advertising for their own company via means like this, where like they say, oh, this sealed copy of Mario Bros. 3 is worth X amount of dollars for the NES, but it's like, it's not really worth that much. And the argument could be made, it's like, oh, something's worth whatever someone's willing to pay.
Yep.
But in this case, it's like nowhere near this price was that game ever sold. So it's like, and again, we might be going into like super conspiratorial territory there, but it's like one person can buy it at that price, and that will artificially inflate the price of every other copy of that game just because one person did it. Like, for example, now the next person's gonna be like, well, I'm no longer gonna sell my copy of Mario 64 for $200 if I know that I could sell it for a lot more, and then it'll just bring everything up to the top. So I've seen people on Twitter saying that like someone literally just maybe they did buy the game for $1.5 million, but they could be holding 500 other copies of the game, and since they did that, it'll raise the price of the rest of their copies so they can sell it for what used to be $200 now for $10,000 a piece or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the diamond industry in a whole. Like all rare gemstones are just, the reason why they're so expensive is because they just hoard on to 99% of the gems, and then they liquidate just a small percentage, and that drives the cost of diamonds and other stuff like way up.
Yeah, and it's just like, I think the silliest part of it is it's not rare, and that is a thing though. Like not all rare games are expensive, and not all expensive games are rare. I guess that's a thing that's kind of, I guess, more so common in the West here. I think like in Japan you can buy a boxed whatever game for like $20, and it's not like there's any less of them in Japan. It's just, I guess there's more of a demand for them for retro games in North America and Europe compared to Japan. So it's I don't know. I just find it really silly, especially as a game collector. I was looking at some of the prices, and it's just like I collect my games just to have them on my shelf. I don't really plan on selling them or anything. But I look at the prices. It is kind of tempting. I'm not gonna lie. Like I bought my complete in box Ocarina of Time collector's edition, whatever. I bought it. It was like 2013 or 2014, like 10 out of 10 condition. I bought it for like I think $60 Canadian, so like whatever that is US, like $40. Now it's worth like $450. I think I saw, and it's just like a big return on investment. But I'm not interested in really selling it. So.
Yeah,
well, I mean, something that I think is kind of odd is like, so this copy of Mario 64 that just sold for over $1.5 million, just 4 days ago, and it was sold by this company, Heritage Auctions, and they're known for various auctions on fine art and collectibles and things like that. But on their own website, like not even talking about eBay or Amazon or any other sort of third-party sellers. Heritage Auctions sold a different copy of Super Mario 64 sealed 6 months ago, which granted is a lower grading, I guess. It's a 7.5 as opposed to the 9.8, I think it was, which is what makes it special. But to the layman, like, I'm looking at this and it looks practically identical to the other copy. And on their own site, this sold for, I mean, it's still ridiculous. I think it sold for $16,000. But $16,000 compared to close to 1.6 million is a pretty big margin of error there.
Yeah. It's a massive gap.
I don't know. I know I'm probably speaking without the right knowledge or experience, but it just seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm looking at pricecharting.com. I'm looking at like the last couple of sales here for a sealed copy, not necessarily graded, and they're like, it jumped from like around $1,000 and then it just like spiked to 8,000, 20,000. Again, that's still big numbers, but again, not close to 1.5 million. So like the opinion of whoever the hell graded it at that company, someone valued at 1 point whatever $million more, which is, I don't know, it's silly. I think it's, I mean, we're circling back. I just think it's, and the same thing's kind of been happening with Pokemon cards too. And it's all generated by hype, obviously, like graded Charizard, first edition, Shadowless, whatever. I think it was similar, like I think it was
like
several
250,000, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say at least several thousand. Yeah, at least 100,000s.
Yeah.
And it's, those cards are rare, and again, value is in the eye of the beholder, but I just feel like as soon as something like that happens, everyone just starts thinking their old cards are worth something. I browse the Facebook marketplace and Kijiji. People are asking like hundreds of dollars for Pokemon cards. I'm like, I know the hype's there. Obviously, no one's going to buy it for those prices. It's just like people have to like check their expectations too, because there are these like unicorns of cards, games, whatever that exist. But then a lot of people get the false expectation that they're similar kind of things are worth a lot more than they actually are, and then it just makes a whole mess for
right. Like
for
I've got
collecting.
a copy of Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt on the NES, and that's older than the 64, so it's obviously got to be worth $2 million, right? You know,
the thing about the million, like it's like you're saying about the 200,000, right? 200,000. I'm like, okay, and this is a weird opinion to have, I guess, but I can see someone spending $200,000 on some rare gaming collectible, and I say that knowing it's a huge amount of money, but it's still not astronomical, right? It's not in the next digits yet. When you get into the millions, I just immediately think fraud. There's something weird about this sale. I'm like, okay, so yeah, he bought a sealed copy of a game. The step down from this went for what you said, 38,000 or something, or whatever.
16,000 at the same auction site 6 months earlier.
To me, it's like, okay, so he bought the game, but what else was in that buy? Like,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's almost weird.
Like, it is it's conspiracy theory. I'm like, okay, is this like sort of like I'm gonna buy this on all this stuff under the rouge that it's just a Mario 64 cartridge, or is there more to it that we don't know?
I mean, granted, it is sort of, I mean, I can't even say it's apples to oranges, because it is like, I mean, unless you are an absolute expert and nitpicking details, I would imagine there's practically no difference between these two copies that sold on Heritage Auctions. At least, I mean, there's none apparent to me.
And I would consider you an authority on this as well, just based off of your just like the vastness of your collection, and you pay attention to this stuff. Like I would trust your opinion over my own.
Well,
same.
The difference is, I mean, from the same auction site, granted, not completely the same across the board, but that's an increase of a factor of 100. 1.6 million compared to 16,000. Like, that's 100 times the asking price. There's something else going on there. Like, yeah.
I almost have to wonder.
It reeks of fraud.
What if there was, I highly doubt this is the case, but like, what if this auction had other items that's just not being shared publicly?
Yeah.
Like, it could be like you got a massive amount of things, but then within that massive amount of things was like a sealed copy of Mario 64. Like, it could really just be that, and it's like not even that interesting, but it's just framed in such a bizarre way where you're spending $1 million on one video game. I mean, who knows? I can't imagine spending $1 million on any video game, even if there's one copy. Like, it's a video game. Like, most video games can be emulated. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of a single game I would do that for.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of memes. It's like, oh, I just bought this on the Wii U for $10 or whatever.
Yeah,
like the same game.
I mean, Mario 3D All Stars, $60 for 3 of the 3D Mario games. So
yeah, exactly. And well, it is different. I mean, like, a lot of collectors, you don't really buy the game to play it necessarily. I know, like, myself, people are like, oh, you can just emulate it for $0, or you can buy it re-released for $10, whatever. For me, it's different. I like having the original product. I like having the box. I like having it on my shelf. Like, I have other means of playing these games, but I just like having the real deal. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of what makes this particularly silly. Again, it's not a special copy of the game. It's not like a pre-release. It's not a beta.
How do you know L wasn't real on this cartridge?
Darn it.
Maybe it was. Maybe
then
that's
it'd be worth $1 million.
It's a personalized copy.
Maybe Miyamoto's the one that bought it. It's the one copy that has Luigi in it. And he needs to keep it under wraps.
It's a personalized copy from Miyamoto's personal collection.
I think what makes this super silly, though, is on the flip side, I just looked it up. There's a mint copy of the original Mario Bros. For the NES in 9.4 condition. And I believe this is the one that was released in North America in like the test launch in I think it was only 2 cities in the States. They were doing like a test launch for Nintendo products. I think it was New York City and somewhere else. So this specific copy of Mario Bros. It had like a special Nintendo sticker on it, so you could differentiate it. It was like a limited edition, first release, first printing that was sold in the States. And this 9.4 condition, super rare, actually rare version of a video game, sold for $114,000. So literally like 1/15 of the sale price of a run-of-the-mill sealed. And this game was also sealed, but this is a run-of-the-mill sealed Mario 64. So I don't know. There's got to be something more to it. I don't think anyone would out of the blue buy it at this price. It's not like the price of the game was like going up and they're speculating that, oh, it might go to 3 million or whatever in the future.
No, as recently as less than a year ago, it sold for under $1,000 for similar copies.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. And then in turn, again, this affects everyone. Like, this affects anyone that's just trying to get into game collecting. Like, they want to buy their first boxed game. It affects like video game preservation, because now people that are hoarding like demos and betas of old games are like, oh, I can pocket some more money now this way. So just in general, like it's inflating the prices. I want to believe artificially. Again, I don't think these games are worth that much. Someone paid for it, of course, but
it's definitely artificial for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
it's
even
already affecting.
Go ahead.
No, my mind's a long thought.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, I was basically just gonna say, I mean, it's not even like just this. I think from last year with COVID, we noticed just game prices in general going up a lot more because people were bored at home, didn't really have much to do. So what they bought the games they used to grow up with, like GameCube games, all the Pokemon games. So because of that, I mean, prices are still just like insanely high for everything. So I think, I mean, if you've been listening, you know, I still have 3 N64 games left to collect. I looked at the price of Stunt Racer. That's like one of the top 5 most rare ones. It went from like $200, $250. Now it's over $500 out of nowhere. And then I'm like, okay, what does everything else
take that off my shelf and put it in the safe.
Yeah.
I think at least last year's stuff is different because 2020, I'd say that's like a natural inflation where that was a sign of like people that grew up with GameCube games, they now have adult money. So there's a lot more demand for the original things. Or maybe they have kids now, they want to share with their kids. So I'd say that's a little bit more natural. So that's more understandable. Obviously, it sucks for collectors because like just in general prices are going up, but at least it makes kind of sense.
Yes. Well,
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if it goes back down. Like, obviously, the price is going up. It'll probably go down eventually. The question is like how much? Like, where will it normalize to after X amount of years, or maybe it'll keep going up. Who knows?
God, I hope not. I'm gonna stop collecting video games if prices keep going up. It's funny because right before COVID started, we all went to PAX East, and I finally got the rarest N64 game, Clay Fighter's Sculptor's Cut, and it was like, I think it was a little under $300, so it wasn't a great price, but it was pretty decent because that
for the time that's a great price.
Yeah, I mean, like $300, $350 is the rough price, so I got it for an okay price. The condition was just all right, but anyway, I finally got it. Now the game is like $800,000. I'm just like, my God, I'm so glad I got it. Yeah, $800,000, $1 million.
Well, I have 2 thoughts on this line of discussion. The first, I don't know if I've ever discussed this with you guys or anywhere, but like I have kind of a personal like conviction with game collecting where like I feel like when you talk to different collectors and different hobbyists, and they kind of have their own goals with collecting or their own methodology. And my thought is like I do collect some sealed games, but in most cases, if I have a game that is sealed and I have any reason, any inclination to play that game, I will open it and I will play it. I don't think it's it doesn't make sense to me to collect something specifically only to look at when it is an interactive media. So like I might have, like if there's a particular, like I think I have a sealed copy of Cooking Mama along with one that I play, the Cookstar game for Switch that was a whole debacle. And some other things like that. Like if it's something particularly interesting, I might keep a sealed copy. But if I ever come across a sealed copy in my collection that I have a reason to play, I'm not going to not play it just because it is sealed. And I feel like just the concept of inflating and overvaluing these sealed games is really kind of defeating the purpose of what they were made for. And I know that's kind of like I'm approaching boomer territory, maybe. But I wanted to show this. I just grabbed this off my shelf here. I've got my copy of Super Mario 64. It's not sealed. It's a complete copy, and it's in decent condition. I mean, you can see like there's no real creases on the box or anything.
But there's markings on it.
But yes. Well, so I had it signed by Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario.
How does it feel to be holding $500,000 in your hand?
Yeah, I wish, right? No, like on a good day, this could be valued at maybe $200. Like a complete copy of Mario 64 runs right now around $120. So maybe if you're generous, you could say Charles Martinet's signature might bump that up to $200. But to me, this is honestly, if I had a fire in the game room, this is probably the first thing I'd grab because it's got more of a sentimental, a personal value to it. It's something that is one of the first games that I ever played. One of the biggest influences on my gaming history. I don't want to call it a career. That's kind of odd, but anyway, like I think it really depends on what your goals are for collecting, and if the individual, well, no, I'm not even going to put any caveats on it. The individual who placed that winning bid is not interested in Super Mario 64. I can say that confidently. Does not probably have any sort of personal connection to that. There's probably something else going on, but even if there's not, I can't imagine that that there's any. I don't know. Maybe that's cynical, but I can't imagine there's any real passion behind that decision.
They're probably going to put it on a gold chain and wear it in the next boxing match.
Yeah. Hell yeah! Yes, I forgot Logan Paul did that with the Charizard card. Oh, man. That was so funny. Yeah.
Has anybody checked to make sure Logan Paul didn't buy that copy?
Yeah, it'll come out like next month, and he's like, actually, it was me. But at that point, it's probably just a tax write-off for him. It's just like, yeah, it's another way to effectively launder money.
Yeah, kind of sad.
I think you can only write off the actual value and not the
MSRP, right off $60.
Yeah, I don't know if you can write off something like that crazy.
You know, Drew, I think
someone bought it for the most craziest unboxing video.
Yeah, right. Well, Drew, I think it's interesting. You bring up, like, you know, when you buy sealed copies, if you want to play it, you're going to open it. I think I don't think there's anything wrong necessarily with keeping sealed copies of games. Especially...
No, I'm not trying to put down anybody who collects in any particular way. Like, that's just a personal rule that I told myself many years ago that, like, if I ever had a situation where I wanted to play something that I owned, I'm gonna play it. Like, that's
well, yeah. Well, I mean, the point of me bringing that up is, well, so I've got a couple of sealed things as well. Like, I haven't opened the Game & Watch Mario Bros thingy from last year. I haven't opened Cooking Mama, Cookstar. Probably won't open them. I just think they're cool pieces. But I do think some people that buy like sealed copies see it purely as an investment, which I don't know if I understand. Because, like, if you want to make an investment, like, just make an investment in the stock market or something, not in a video game. Because, like, sure, you can make some money off of video games if you're lucky, but if you want to make a stable long-term investment, then you would put it into a bank account or something.
GameStop.
And historically, it's not a good idea either. Historically, it's not a good idea to be treating games as investments. And, like, if you, I try to be as realistic about game collecting as I can. Every single one of these, at some point, is going to die of bit rot or disc rot. And at that point, it's going to be only a shelf piece. And you have to kind of make peace with that, if that's the case. But, I mean, I guess if you're spending $1.6 million on a sealed copy of Mario 64, you're never going to know when it dies. So.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a whole other fiasco, because you were mentioning how people, like, you wouldn't buy things as an investment, but I guess that's kind of where a lot of people are doing now. I don't want to say people are doing it more than they have in the past, because I don't know if that's true, but it's happening with video games. Like, and you could do stock investments, and a lot of people do, but for these people, they probably make a lot more doing it this way. Like, their percent return is probably a lot more than with safe and stable investments. Like, let's say you buy 100 Nintendo Switch OLED models for a retail price, and you sell them for 3 times market value. That's a 200% return on investment. And it's fast. So, like, I see the reason behind it. I think it sucks because, like, they're doing this with literally everything now. I think, like, just because I guess
it's with a lot of things. Yeah.
I guess just by the nature of the internet making buying everything super accessible. Obviously, you can write scripts and stuff to pre-order whatever instantly, which screws over everyone else, kind of thing. But they do this with new video games, consoles. That's why it's super hard to get a Series X, PS5, whatever.
Well, ultimately, if there weren't issues with the supply chain right now, then it would probably not be a problem. Although there's also questions of whether or not Nintendo and some of these other companies are trying to do the artificial scarcity thing.
I feel like Nintendo's been doing it for forever.
There was because all these products require electronic chips, and there was a massive fire that destroyed that entire factory that produced like 40% of the world's electronic chips.
I didn't know about that.
And they lost everything. Yeah, they lost everything. So what happened was all these companies, because the thing is, like, a chip can go from anything to a pair of headphones that could have a retail price of $20 all the way up to a car. It's the same product. They can go in both. And there's obviously a big price difference on those products. So you have these companies, the ones that are basically producing the leftover chips. But you have these companies that need them, and it goes to the highest bidder. It's kind of almost extortionist. It's really weird, but it sucks because that's what's driving up the cost of a lot of these things, the scarcity on things. And you have, I mean, anyone trying to buy a graphics card, rest in peace.
I've been trying for upwards of a year.
Yeah, I tried for a while too, but I'm probably just gonna at this point wait for the next generation or next year's cards. But on that note, I've heard that with China cracking down on crypto, that a lot of people in China are now selling off a lot of their graphics cards because, like, if you can't use them to mine Bitcoin or XRP or whatever anymore, then they're no use to them anymore. So and now there's like a big sell-off in China, so the prices are in theory coming back down. I haven't really looked into it myself, but now that everyone's trying to sell them, they're coming back down, but they are used and they've been used in mining, so it's not something I would get into. Like, I'm not that desperate for a card that I would buy one that someone's been mining for half a year with. But I mean, hopefully it's a step in the right direction. Again, the scarcity, like you said, was part of the chip shortage. But there are other things that might not have been super related to the chip. Like I think back to like cards. Obviously, machines and stuff print them, which probably use the chips too. But the product themselves, it's cardboard, and people are valuing this cardboard at such high prices now. And again, it started with like Logan Paul and stuff, which generated a lot of hype, and then that caused a lot of people to have nostalgia goggles and want to get back the stuff from their childhood and whatnot. But it's just really interesting to see that a lot of the stuff, it just happens in so many different sectors, and it seems like it's just been happening in the last 2 years. Be it because people are at home now, they just have more time to think about stuff from the days of old, or they just want to get back into different hobbies. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. It's happening to a lot of different things, like across the spectrum.
Yeah,
Another thing too is like, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's probably, I imagine it's like this for the stores around you, but like there's a Target that's like somewhat close to me, and they don't even sell any cards. No baseball cards, no Pokemon cards. They're like, hey, we're actually not allowed to sell them anymore because people would get like Violet and stuff. So I'm just like, God, it's just cards.
I heard about that, where like people in Targets would actually like get into fist fights, and I think like
they literally
someone
can't
beat
stock
up like
them
a
now.
kid or something. Yeah.
I remember back when the Amiibo craze was starting, there was a bit of contention there with like sort of Black Friday-esque stampedes and such.
Yeah.
You guys ever see the movie
fights here? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so you guys ever see the movie Jingle All the Way?
Yeah. Classic.
The Turbo Man doll. That's basically what it is.
Movie. Yeah.
Turbo Man Society.
Each Santa was a reseller.
The Santa scalping corporation they got.
Yeah. I was gonna just say, like when it comes to like the Logan Paul thing, I think it's important to remember it's not like Logan Paul was just the only individual in that sort of sphere of like creating the hype around the Pokemon, because he was reached out to by this random dude, I don't remember the name, who many people have been like, yeah, he's just like a scam artist, because he goes around like reaching out to like investors to be like, hey, here's something you can get money from. And then it's not like every single person out there either directly or indirectly like affecting the inflation of the collectible prices is just an independent single person. I think there's also people who, for their own reasons or whatnot, are just like, oh, dude, there's money in this. I can convince someone to pay me, and I can be their like go between guy, and then suddenly they're making money that way. So like, what I'm getting is, I don't know if this is necessarily, it'll probably go back down, but I don't think it'll ever stop happening. Like, I don't think it's ever going to actually stop the scalping issue, because no matter what, people are going to see opportunities to make money and then literally capitalize on it. So,
and I think again, you have all of them, I guess you can consider bad apples, but like someone who scalps one console because they don't make enough money at their job. It's like, I look at it that way too. I'm like, okay, this person, I understand why they did it. Now they're not hoarding thousands of PS5s in their mom's basement, but so like, just the idea that you could go wait somewhere, if you can, for releases or whatever, and pick it up and then flip it one time. Like, I understand why people do that. Like, I can't I don't like it, but I understand why someone would do it.
Like, if you go back and watch the videos of the original iPhone release, like it was a big meme because there was literally a lady right in front who tried buying a bunch of iPhones because she was gonna resell them, and she was denied, and that became like, oh wow, she like the Karen got owned or whatever because she was being all snippy, I think. But like, that was the iPhone release, like what, 2008? I
think it was 7.
It's been a while. 2007.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's just gonna keep happening. But
well, ultimately, I think it will get a lot better. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I would say buying multiples of something is it just gets worse and worse and worse. Like, I have no compassion for the person you just described.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely going to get better at some point, just because like it has been vastly exacerbated by the semiconductor shortage. Because like you look back at like I mentioned, the Amiibo phrase when Amiibo first came out, I think 2014, 2015. Like that was a case where Nintendo could have made as many of those as they wanted, and they didn't. They really didn't expect them to sell as well as they did at the beginning, I think, and then they kind of like continued that run of like, oh, these are selling great if we don't make too many. So, you know, like if you look at it now, like you cannot do this to Super Mario Odyssey. Like we could, you know, if like pool all our money together, go buy every copy of Odyssey that we possibly could. It's not going to drive up the cost of Odyssey because they have enough. Like they've made enough for people who, for as many people who want this game.
Yeah.
Whereas you're looking at the PS4, the Xbox Series X, or sorry, PS5, Xbox Series X, any new graphics cards, like they cannot keep them in stock for more than a minute or two. Yeah. And that is incentivizing people to say like, oh, you know, like I can turn this around in 5 minutes and go make 200% profit.
It's annoying as a consumer because I'll be really quick, Tetra. I just wanted to bring up that I was lucky enough to get the Switch OLED pre-ordered today.
Nice.
But the only way I think I was able to do it is because I was so diligent. So like at 11, I called the GameStop. They said not open yet. I'm like, okay, well, Nintendo said that they should open at 3. So the plan was go to the GameStop about 5 minutes early, and if the GameStop was if they didn't open their pre-orders at 3, I had Best Buy pulled up on my phone. All my account information was in. I double checked my payment was ready to go, just to ensure I could get one of them. And thankfully, when I got there, I was able to get the pre-order about 2 minutes ahead of time. So,
nice.
But it just goes to show, like, you know, for a consumer, with new products, like the past couple years, like it feels like such a chore to have to just like get something. You know? And I hate that. I hate it.
See, like again, like Drew said, I think the ultimate answer is just increased supply. If there is more than enough, if there's more than enough product, scalpers wouldn't exist. Even if they buy a bunch, Nintendo or whatever company still makes profit. They just make more. Eventually, scalpers won't have enough money to keep buying them, or they won't buy them, and everyone would have enough. Obviously, now it's tough with the chip shortage. On another note, like you said, like now with the Switch OLED, I feel like Nintendo's a special case because I feel like this isn't a new thing for Nintendo fans. I feel like personally, I've had to do this for the last 10-ish or so years. I remember like, for Amiibo was one good example. Also, shout outs to when Amiibo were still like $12. Now they've gone up like double the price.
Nintendo's selling them for $25 now. That's what the Skyward Sword one is. I'm like,
Skyward Sword has fast travel. Can't forget that point.
Yes, $25 for fast travel.
Locked fast travel.
$60 for the game as well. So
shout outs to when they were a decent price. But I just remember like in 2015 or 16 when the Zelda Majora's Mask 3DS was coming out. I knew it was going to be hard to find, so I remember like first thing in the morning before I think I skipped the university class. I went to EB Games at the mall, and I like waited before they opened. Like I've never done that for anything else in my life, but I like waited for them to open. I was like I wasn't first in store. There was already 2 people ahead of me waiting because they knew it was going to be rare as well. So I had to like pre-order in store before it went live on the website or whatever. It's just like, so for Nintendo stuff, ever since the Wii, I remember the Wii. That was another case of I believe artificial scarcity when it first came out. It was hyped. Like everyone wanted it. I remember like people were going crazy for it. I didn't get one. Like I wanted it at launch. I legitimately could not get one. I think it launched in November, December. I couldn't get one until like June of next year. And even that point, like 6 or 7 months later, the only way I was able to get one, someone tipped off my friend and he said Toys R Us was getting like a shipment of them.
That's exactly how I did it.
And so we went there, and the first 50 people in line got like a voucher or whatever saying that you were there in line. And somehow I lucked out, but it was just like, it's crazy. Like even 8 months later, and it was super hard to find. And it's not like there wasn't any chip shortage at the time. I'm sure Nintendo, whoever had the supply,
they would know how much is gonna sell. Like
but I feel like that's Nintendo all the time. They're like, oh, we didn't think this product would do super well. I'm sorry, guys. Now we'll make more. I don't know. I feel like by this point you'd think Nintendo would know what fans buy and what they don't buy. Like. But they don't, because they also made like infinite Amiibo for Animal Crossing, and then they're still in stores to this day. Like you'll see 20,000
Dollar Tree now, I think.
Yeah, that Dollar Tree. It's like there they messed up. So I guess they must still not know.
They're trying to find that perfect like juxtaposition of supply and demand, where they can just make it just rare enough that incentivizes a small group of people that wouldn't have bought it otherwise.
I remember I was texting Nathan when the home circuit came out, Mario Kart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to find Turbo Man, like I mentioned before, going to different stores, trying to get both the Mario Kart set and the Luigi Kart set.
I hate it.
Yes,
it was interesting.
Oh, go ahead, Swick.
ahead.
I have something about Mario Kart afterwards when you're done.
I was surprised because I was worried. I hadn't shopped because that's something where it's like, oh, cool. Well, if I miss the physical edition, I could download the game, right? Like you can't do that with that. You actually have to have the physical cart. But it was interesting because there ended up being like a surplus of Mario Karts. And I think the only reason why is a lot of people didn't buy it because they didn't have the space in their home.
Yeah.
And it was expensive for like cardboard.
It was really expensive.
It's a lot. I remember
It's like $100 a set.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get both the Mario and the Luigi one, but in the store, you could only pick, it was only one per customer. And at the store, there was one Mario and one Luigi. I'm just like, oh my God, this is not good. So I got the Mario one, and then someone in my family was actually so lucky. They were visiting that day. And then I called them. I'm like, hey, can you get this other one? And then I'll pay you back immediately after. And then they came within like 3 minutes. They got the set. That was the only reason I got both of them. It was so lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, now I see they've dropped down to around $75. I've seen it.
Yeah, I see them all over the store now.
places.
They're not. I thought they were going to be rare, but no, not really.
And I was super worried. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's kind of the problem with Nintendo because you don't know when something's gonna be like super hard to find or not. Same thing happened to me with the Mario Game & Watch. I'm like pre-ordered it day one. I'm like, this is gonna be hard to find.
Yeah.
Come December or whatever, and there was like 70 of them at every store, just like sitting in the shelf. You just don't know because you can't tell with Nintendo. Either something's gonna be insanely hard to find, or you think it's gonna be hard to find, but with the FOMO or fear of missing out, you just literally don't know. So like, and it's I feel like it's all like mental tactics. Like it kind of trains you to pre-order stuff. Because you're like, because normally you'd kind of like mull it over if you want to buy it. But when you're trained to think, pre-order now, think about it later, you're going to try to pre-order it anyway. And it's just, I don't know, it's just like an unfortunate, silly situation that most Nintendo fans are in if they want something.
I think as a content creator.
That.
Yeah. I was going to say, can I toss in a quick fact real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I have found these numbers while looking at my Mario history videos. So I briefly talk about the units sold per like system. Do you know how many units? I'll give you the answer, but do you know how many units were sold for the Game Boy in the first 2 weeks in Japan? It was 300,000, and it sold in like 2 weeks. So when the Super Famicom was released, did they prepare ahead of time, make it 500,000? No, it's 300,000 again, literally. Like the exact same amount, and it sold out within hours. And I'm pretty sure if I were to go back and find N64, it's pretty much the same thing. They don't. Sure. I feel like they don't actually care about making enough. Like it's crazy. But sorry.
And I'm sure it works for them. Obviously, like we talked about artificial scarcity. It clearly works. They know like they create demand for it. People are gonna. Even if people that didn't want it at first will probably be like, oh, this is interesting. People obviously it's flying off the shelves. Maybe I'll check it out. So it's an age-old tale at this point for Nintendo fans.
Yep.
Also, when it comes to pre-orders, I want to throw out there like I hate the idea of pre-orders. Like obviously it makes sense that like if it's gonna be limited, you have to get in there ahead of time. Like you said, like you got a voucher by being in line. Like you were trying to get something. It's not like pre-ordered the same thing, but it's like it's hard, but I don't like it because it's like there's so many ways that can go wrong. Like you're basically paying for something that you're not getting immediately, so you're paying for the idea of something, which is just not very healthy, I think. So these days it's better because with digital downloads you don't have to worry about standing outside. I still remember being in line for GTA 5's release back when that was the new thing, and now it's on three different console generations. So it's like, okay, well, dang. But it's just,
still not on Switch.
I agree that you're being, I agree that you're being trained to pre-order, and I don't like it.
Yeah, because like
Oh,
before
I
you
hate
they'd
it.
have to like
Yeah.
they'd have to like incentivize you to pre-order, like they'd give you free stuff or
Yeah.
give you in-game. It's kind of transition to like in-game garbage that no one really
Cosmetics,
cares
yeah.
about. But I feel like at this, like I said again, at this point Nintendo doesn't even need to do that. Sure, EB Games might give you a poster or something, whatever. But like they're at the point where it's like, we know you're gonna pre-order it anyway, so
You're going to buy it anyway,
you.
even if you complain
Yeah.
about it. It will happen.
I'm hoping I did not pre-order the Switch OLED edition, but I'm hoping that just with the context of its release, that like it seems like it would make sense for them to try to transition from the old model to like eventually exclusively selling the OLED model, or potentially if there is actually a more robust upgrade next year or something like that, a Switch Pro. It could be that the OLED model ends up being a thing that they produce for a few months. Maybe they have one print run because they've done that before.
See,
and then,
I've heard that
like-
since it's the Tegra 1 chip or whatever.
It's the exact same chip. Yeah.
Yeah, but it stopped. It's Nvidia's stopping producing it because it's super old. So they're stopping making it. So I've heard the reason Nintendo made this super fast. A, they ordered a bunch of OLED panels, and B, I think they put it in order for 30 million of the chips, which is pretty much, I think, all the Switches that are ever going to be made from now till the end of its life cycle. So there's a lot of people have been saying that whatever Switches are going to be made in the next couple of months here are the last ones that are going to be made. They're just using up all the available supplies they have in terms of chips and OLED panels and all that stuff. So I don't know. At this point in the life cycle of the Switch, I don't think we're going to get another revision. We're almost like 4.5 years deep at this point almost.
Switch
but
2.
I think we're going to start seeing rumors for the next hardware pretty soon.
Are you saying I should stop hoping and praying that Breath of the Wild on the Switch will no longer lag, even though it also lagged on the Wii U? And that's a generation up. So just gotta wait for the next one, I guess.
Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be
also going to
wait for Breath of the Wild 4K edition on the Nintendo Revolution 17.4. I don't know.
I feel
Zelda
like
is their
I'm
dual
tired.
release series.
the next Switch will just be like 2K. They're not going to go to 4K.
Yeah,
It's going to just be
They're not
like
even at 1080p yet.
yeah.
They're hardly at
technically
1080p.
1080p.
They'll come out with a
dogs.
revolutionary system that you can control with brainwaves, and it runs at 240p.
Perfect.
That's what it'll be.
Perfect.
Calling it now. That's the next generation of Nintendo hardware,
Virtual
right?
Boy 2. The
Virtual
new
Boy.
Virtual Boy. There you go.
And Knuckles.
And Knuckles.
Deluxe.
So now that we've kind of talked about inflation and game collecting and hoarding, what are your thoughts? Those of you listening, if you're on YouTube, drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts on any of these things. And we'll see you again soon in the next Minus Cast, episode 36, question mark?
It'll be 36.
Will be the next one. Yeah.
I want you guys to pretend this is Grant's towel. I'm going to throw it.
Yeet.
Okay,
We need
goodbye.
to make Minus World towel merch.
Yeah.
That still needs to happen.
Yes, Minus World Towel merch. Let's make it happen.